Hi, I'm Robert Osborne. All month we've been examining how Asians have been portrayed in Hollywood films through the years, part of a TCM series we call Race in Hollywood. Well, for this final Thursday in June, we're going to wrap up our retrospective with some contemporary films which feature Asian characters. And with me to give his perspective on these movies is the man who helped program this festival, Associate Professor Peter Feng of the University of Delaware. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Robert.
Now, first, we have a 2001 action comedy which teams two popular 2008 talents, comedian Chris Tucker and action star Jackie Chan. The film is called Rush Hour 2. And let's talk a little about Jackie Chan and his emergence as a star.
Well, he was, of course, a big star in Hong Kong and in all of Asia, and indeed in all of the world, everywhere but the United States for a long, long time.
And did he precede Bruce Lee or come after Bruce Lee? How does he fit into that?
He comes in. We actually see him very briefly. You see Bruce Lee dispose of him very quickly in Enter the Dragon.
Oh, really?
But you barely see his face on screen. So
Right.
He was an up-and-coming talent working with Bruce Lee, and then he began to star in his own films. But his films are very different from Bruce Lee's. They often had a comic tone. He's always said that he was a great fan of the silent film comedians, Buster Keaton and Harold Lloyd in particular, and of Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire. So his films have a real sense of whimsy and choreography to them. But his films were very popular all around the world, and he just couldn't break through into the American market until finally in the mid-90s they hit upon a new strategy and took some of his most popular and accessible Hong Kong films and dubbed them into English and released them in the United States. And Rumble in the Bronx was the first one, and it did very well, and they followed it up with some other dubbed films, and they continued to do well. So with the success of his dubbed films, they tried to break him into an English language film again, and I think they combined him with a classic American genre, the buddy cop movie, and they allowed him to bring some of his comic style in, and they wanted somebody else to do all the language-based jokes, a fast-talking funny man, so they connected him with Chris Tucker in the first Rush Hour movie in 1998. That movie did phenomenally well. Then we have the sequel that we're looking at tonight, Rush Hour 2 in 2001.
Interesting, it took almost 18 years for him to hit,
well,
from 1980 to 1998.
Yeah, I think the challenge of that Hollywood was facing was integrating his style, which was aimed at his understanding of the audience in Asia and what they wanted to see. So maybe this is a lesson about the way that Hollywood had gotten into certain patterns of representing Asians, that they couldn't get the Hollywood version of an Asian to align perfectly with Jackie Chan's version of an Asian alien. And I think that's thematized in these stories because Chris Tucker, they talk about stereotypes, they talk about the misperceptions that these characters have about each other, and that's one of the points of the film.
Well said. Here's the film also with the co-star of The Last Emperor, John Lone, and comedian Alan King. Here's Rush Hour 2.